Going back to what we were talking about, the Portuguese power in the Indian Ocean, it's true that the Portuguese were the first to put the cannons on the carracks, on the ships?
They were, yes. Um, um, John II, also a very smart guy, another of my heroes. um,
Yeah.
he actually carried out um, experiments off the coast of Portugal with cannons to work out the best way of positioning them on ships. Yes, they were the forerunners of that technology, really, um, which again, you're looking at some very, very bright people thinking outside of the box, quite honestly. What this meant, of course, when they got into the Indian Ocean, that there was no competition really as far as
Yeah.
they could blast anybody out of the water because there were no, although there were the presence of gunpowder weapons were, there in the Mamluk dynasty in Egypt and in, and to a certain extent, I think, in some of the Indian um, kingdoms, but nobody had guns on ships, and therefore,
Yeah.
you know, uh, therefore, this gives you, and also they did quite a lot of bombarding of places they didn't
Yeah.
like from the
Are
coast. If Calicut or somewhere didn't surrender, you just blast them. But
and rain.
it gave them for a period again an absolutely invincible position that nobody could contest. No, they couldn't. Um,
Are you
so yeah, yeah.
are you aware? Do you know about the history of the Battle of Diu?
Um, the Battle of Dew was. I have to say, I've rather forgotten about the Battle of Dew. It was about 1505, wasn't it? With the Sultan of Kanakor, I think, one of those Islamic states.
Yeah.
And what it was a wipeout again for those reasons, really, that the
Yeah.
Portuguese had the cannons and nobody could compete with them, really.
Yeah.
It only becomes tricky for the Portuguese when the Ottomans start to present themselves in the Indian Ocean, and then they do have a competitor. But the
Yeah.
Ottomans, they didn't. They caused a certain amount of trouble, but it wasn't a, they still retained, really, I think, for
Mhm.
much of the 16th century, a monopoly, really. And it's only when the Dutch and
Yeah.
to a less extent the English come along, and this relates particularly to the Spice Islands,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I think one of the problems of managing this empire was, I mean, I've heard people describe Manuel II as a clot. I don't know if that means anything in an idiot, really, because he really insisted on trying to manage something on the other side of the world, which he couldn't. And he
Yeah.
didn't, and he failed to recognize talent when he saw it, which was, which in the case of people like Albuquerque was there really,
Yeah.
and this and this goes really. He wanted all the stuff to come back to the King of Portugal, uh,
Yeah.
rather than private enterprise. I mean, this is going to cause a great deal of trouble, really, because um, you'd send out. Admittedly, if you're in Lisbon, you have absolutely no idea of
No
what the
idea.
conditions were like, how things operated in the in the other side of the world. But you have to trust your lieutenants, and
Yeah.
Almeida and Albuquerque, were you get talent and you have confidence in it, really.
Mhm.
And he doesn't quite do that, and therefore the poor old Albuquerque dies heartbroken
Mhm.
of when he receives the word that he's going to be replaced. The following year, um, Manuel, I think, sends a letter out saying, Albuquerque, terribly sorry. Well, forget everything I said about you. But by that time, Albuquerque was dead. So, and of
Yeah,
course, when you think about it, the supply chain, it's it's a it's effectively a 2-year round trip. By the
yeah,
time
that's
you've
right.
sailed to India,
And
you
then
have
back.
to wait for the monsoon, come back
Yeah,
again. It's a 2-year cycle. So if you send out an order in 1 year, you're going to get a response 2 years later, probably.
yeah.
So we have to say that it's never going to be a perfect system.